So I'd like to take this opportunity to communicate the nuance and depth behind these images here. There's many, many, many more that I could have added, and these here represent hundreds of hours of work and constant failure. So I'll start here. So to get to this stage of having multiple layers to fuse, and we've got copper and silver, I had to get copper, melt it down, hammer it out, and then roll it through the rolling mill until it was about 0.8 mils. Now, every time you hammer metal, it gets work hardened, and then you have to anneal it to get it soft. So every time it went through here, and every time I hammered it, I'd have to heat it up to red hot and then quench it in water, and that releases the tension in the crystals of the metal and allows it to, be soft and malleable again. And I was doing that with a blowtorch on my nan's balcony for 5 months, from September till December. I was working on my living room table and out of my aunt's hut, and I was using blowtorches that I got from Screwfix. So all of this body of work happened without access or without really coming into uni, because I had to be elsewhere. And I'm immensely proud of what I managed to do, because this documents a hands-on development of knowledge, or a process-led material-based research. So there's no way that I could learn anything unless I was actually doing and failing all the time. So what would happen is I'd get these and I'd fuse them into a billet. This is what a successful-ish billet looks like. And this is the first thing I ever made. And this is the same thing. And I don't know if you could see, but these layers have delaminated, is the term. They've come apart. And so what happened was I had goals or ideals to work on a small scale and learn the hands-on feel and touch of fusing Mokume Gane. And because the temperature range is so narrow, to get the metals to fuse rather than melt or not laminate properly, I had a lot of failures, and this is an example of that. So it may have looked okay in the billet, but as soon as I tried to sort of punch it through to turn it into a ring, the layers would slip and it would expose the fact that it wasn't properly fused throughout. And then here's another example, these two, of how perhaps 4 or 5 layers out of 10 may have fused, and then these two didn't, and then the whole billet's essentially useless. I've kept this in this current form because it's emblematic of my failures, and I really like it. Kind of looks like an open book, and I like it as a sculpture as well. There's a bunch of failures that I like the look of because they're sort of anti-intentionalist, but this is another example of failure, because here's silver, here's copper, here's silver, and as soon as I tried twisting it, they sort of delaminated and came apart. So the whole point is that you turn lots of different metals into one block that you can then forge and play with as one unit. And at this point, it wasn't one unit, it was separate. So I was constantly taking risks in twisting these, in stretching them, in hammering them out further than the billets allowed for, essentially learning through constant failure. So I was taking risk all of the time. My failure rate was about 80%. And what it meant was that when I got to actually finally make, for example, this ring I was immensely proud of, and you can see that the inner layer slipped here, but it looked good. It looked better than anything else, and I could wear it, and I really liked it. It was 5 layers of fine silver and copper, and it was the first realization of anything where I was really, truly proud. And a lot of it came from the fact that I'd taken so much risk before, and that risk was paying off in the sense that I understood exactly when to, this cherry red sweet spot, I understood exactly when to add pressure. So you have to let it cool down and then add pressure at a certain point, not too soon, not too late. And then these hearts, I made 3. This is another example of an adaptation to failure. Is with these rings, I'd cut them out, and then there'd be a disc on the inside that was waste material. But to my surprise, the inside fused better than the outside, because the outside underwent a lot of stress in being shaped to turn into rings, whereas the inside I didn't do anything to, and the layers stayed laminated. So I had a bunch of offcuts, and this whole process taught me to never waste anything, to not see failure as failure, and to try and make success out of failure. And so these hearts are made out of the offcuts of mostly failed rings. So I can look at these hearts and be like, yeah, the rings failed, but I'm incredibly happy that the hearts came out. And this is the one I gave to my aunt as a thank you for using her shed, and these two I gave away as gifts to people that I really truly care for. This is an example of a piece I'm really happy with the copper and silver twisted wire, and that took a while to understand and develop, but I'm really glad that I got there. So I hope that this explains to some extent my process behind doing this, but ultimately how much of a learning curve there was behind this, and how much I had to adapt and overcome to create any wearable, usable objects. But in gaining this knowledge, I understood a hands-on feel, a touch feel of the materiality of silver and copper and the composite of those as Mokume Gane, and how much stress and strain that could take before delaminating, and also how much stress it could take in work hardening before I had to anneal it to soften it to make it easier to form again, because that is a constant process. You hammer out and then you anneal, and you hammer out and then you anneal. Anyway, thank you very much. This is this page explained.